I'm just wondering, some people will say that arbitration is give and take, and that, you know, it would seem that we have the larger share here, because it would seem that your fears are based on assumptions. What if, what if?
You mean, you are talking as if law is final. You forget that law is man-made. And I would like to say this clearly, that most of the laws that govern international transactions were not done in favor of the black race. It is true, it's a fact.
But we signed up to them, didn't we?
No, she's trying to talk about the fear. You know, there's a particular conception people have that once something has gone to court, or once there's a legal case over it, that we are all to stay put. We forget that as human beings, we are supposed to change laws. Laws are dynamic. That is why you see every now and then there are amendments. I thought that this would have been a locus classicus. This case, if Nigeria had pushed on, heads on, and approached the International Court of Arbitration and told them, you know what, we don't care what rules you have. Our people are suffering, and these assets are vital. And moreover, we have clear proof that this company has engaged in fraudulent malpractice, not only in Nigeria, but in every country they have operated in. In Bulgaria, is the same story. In Libya. And even in India, this country is bad from operating. So why else are we open? If we put our cases forward, I believe the International Court of Arbitration will sit back and reevaluate it. And this would have been an opportunity for Nigeria to set a precedent for every other African country who has had its assets manipulated and trampled upon by the stronger countries. This is Nigeria we're talking about.
So as it is now, you don't think that having signed this renegotiated concession is going to actually get us off in terms of global infrastructure producing to supply Ajaokuta, which is what they agreed to do? Yeah.
A lot of people, probably the way the media took it round, that Ajaokuta has been concessioned or so. No. Ajaokuta has not yet been touched, and as I speak now, we're still pushing for the original builders, which on the 7th of last month, the president actually approved.
I thought the minister said there will be an open isn't it an open bid where they will invite people to come in and the best person takes it over?
You see, we're talking about Nigeria here, and a country with very high political grounds. Today something is said, tomorrow someone counters that. All I know is, to the very best of my knowledge, which the minister is aware of, on the 8th of July, his office received a memo from the presidency approving that he should conclude the arbitration. Thank you. Wanting this water. That he should conclude the arbitration with the global infrastructure, and B, that he should engage the Russians and finalize negotiations to reactivate Ajaokuta. It was specific. A few weeks later, I started hearing that there was actually going to be a bidding process, so that they could, as it's called, to fulfill all righteousness of due process.
Isn't that the normal procedure?
You see, it's a normal procedure when you are starting a new project. May I remind you that Ajaokuta was completed 98.8% before the Russians left. So why do you want to bring a new technology, a new brain into something that has already gone that far? We have tried 2 concessions and have failed. The Russians left 22 years ago. Shouldn't we know what is right to be done? May I tell you also that every steel plant that Ajaokuta export of Russia has built, they have a long-term service and expansion relationship with the company.
So if I get this property,
yes,
you want this to be handled by the Russians. But the impression we get is, if the minister says, look, we should open this up, let's see, let the best person take it over, that doesn't necessarily mean that he has excluded the Russians, does it?
I will tell you this, that we all know how Nigeria, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be very honest with ourselves. We know how the bidding process in Nigeria goes. The winner is always predetermined and known before the act. It's always.
In all cases?
In most cases, I tell you, quote me anyway. For the fact that Nigeria is where we are right now, a rich country that is being controlled by just a few people, it tells you that there are some powers all the time that manipulate and control the resources of the common man.
But who says that if another company takes it over, other than the Russians, we won't get a better deal or a good deal?
You can never know much more than the master.
Why do you say
I'll say this. You see, There is so much that Nigerians don't know, but I will tell you something, Mr. Chamberlain. Before I leave today, I'm going to hand over some documents, some very, very secretive documents that I have in my possession to you. And channels can do when it feels it's right to expose them to Nigeria, I'll let you know. And that will tell and show Nigerians the back end to our destructive state. And the earlier we stand up and speak for the rights, for that which we know is true, the better for us. Why do you want to? Look at what is happening in Egypt. Earlier this year, Egypt, the Egyptian steel engaged the same Ajaokuta export who built their steel plant Hill 1 in 1973. They engaged them to expand and to modernize. They didn't have to go open a bid. If you know what you want, and you know that there's proof that you can get the same service that you demand, why do you have to go look for someone else?
Have they shown any interest to
Of
even
course
come
they
back?
have.
I mean, the Russians, to even come back and finish up where it started?
They have always shown interest. You will see a lot more in the documents I'm going to give you. And like I told you, I was in your show sometime 2 months ago or so. I joined you from Abuja and we spoke. They have expressed interest. As at right now, they are still expecting the minister to reach out to them. And that was the instruction the president relayed to the minister, that once he has resolved the Itakpe arbitration, the next step he's supposed to do is engage the Ajaokuta export. And that's what we should be expecting now. That is what should happen. Why is Nigeria afraid of the original builders? Why is Nigeria afraid of Russia? Is it because they do not do business the usual way?
Natasha, there are those who are wondering why you're, well, speaking up now. I mean, yes, you've been on this for quite a while, but this is a renegotiated concession.
Yes.
Why won't you wait? And it's broken in phases. Why won't you let at least phase 1 come through and let's see what comes of it?
Oh, no. I think we're getting this a bit wrong. I was actually advocating for Ajaokuta, even though it's connected and robs off Itakpe.
Okay.
Sadly, probably, I would say that I have not put in enough push for Itakpe. So we kind of just let it go, take
but
its
the minister
natural
was
course.
quoted at that renegotiation for Itakpe.
Yes.
Was quoted as saying that the process of retaking Ajaokuta will begin when the phase 1 of Itakpe is finished. Why are we not waiting?
Phase 1 is the submission of the business plan. And that's why I asked you the same question. Itakpe was given to global infrastructure without the business plans. And I'm telling you today, right now, the minister cannot sit down and tell you the 1-year plan, 5-year plan, or 10-year or whatever plan that the global infrastructure has for Nigeria. They do not have it. It's not on ground now.
Let's get our colleague in, Markwa. She'd like to put a question through. Markwa.
Respond to those people who say that this is not totally altruistic on your part, because you've been known to push this Russian firm for quite a while now.
Yes. Oh, is that a question?
Yes.
Okay.
As in your intentions, what are your intentions? You've been pushing for these Russian firms.
Okay, what? Oh, I am a bit of a... I love to appreciate systems and procedures, especially when they make sense. And going through the history, like I said, of the project, from the moment the groundbreaking took place in 1979 to the delay and the panel departure and what actually stands evidential in Ajaokuta there, and looking at the failed concession of Soul Gas and the global infrastructure, and I just thought, you know, Nigeria has lost track. And in my research into what should be, I discovered that it was necessary for me to contact the original builders. And I would tell Nigerians, the very first 2 emails I sent to them were not returned because I suspected I was fraudulent, until I had to prove myself that I was advocating in the good sense for Nigeria. So, but when I approached them, I saw that they have such a robust package for Nigeria. They told me that they were not interested in just reviving Ajaokuta, no. They were interested in coming down here and setting up a number of factories and industries that will utilize the steel, which will in turn ensure that Nigeria recovers and gains a substantial amount of investment.
Why didn't they do it before?
It was part of the package. It was. They were supposed to make Nigeria the industrial hub of Africa. That was the plan.
So
industries.
Are you saying no other company could have done this except this Russian company because they're the ones that they have history, or they're the ones that built Ajaokuta?
I will tell you something again, that if you take it back to the time, to why Nigeria even engaged Ajaokuta from Russia in the first place, it was because a whole other countries did not want to help Nigeria develop its steel. Mind you, steel is very crucial in international politics. Any country that has got a steel industry right, it becomes almost a power in the world. And talking about Africa, Nigeria, the most populous, you talk about how great Nigerians always have the X factor. So it was more of a danger to the West world to have Nigeria get its steel. And out of all the countries, from UK, Japan, America, Canada, they all refused to develop Nigeria's steel. They were interested in the oil. It was only Russia that took up, because they have this idea of telling the West, do not be afraid of how strong Nigeria will become. Look at them as allies. Forget about making them your distant colony. So right now, like I say, it's not as if, oh, of course, by all means, China can develop, by all means, China can set up a steel plant. China can set up so many other things. But why do we have to bring in a different party with a different technology into a place that is already existing? If engineers will understand this better. It's like an iPhone. I made an example of an iPhone and a BlackBerry. The two devices are fine, but you cannot build an iPhone to 98% and then get the BlackBerry. It will not fit. Both will be fine, and so also is technology.